Today, we've got one of those incredible stories of transformation that sounds almost too good to be true. It's all about a massive, expanding desert that was not just stopped in its tracks, but actually reversed, all thanks to a surprisingly simple and, yeah, pretty brilliant idea.
I mean, think about it for a second. How do you actually do that? When you've got sand just swallowing up everything, farms, homes, entire landscapes, how do you fight back against an enemy that's made of billions of tiny grains? Well, that was the exact massive problem facing China.
So let's meet the villain of our story, the Kubuqi Desert. Now this desert, located in China, wasn't just sitting there minding its own business. Oh no, it was actively expanding, just consuming forests and fertile soil all around it. Every single day, it was getting bigger.
Then the scale of this problem was just staggering. We're talking about 500,000 acres of good, productive land disappearing under sand every single year. Can you imagine? The wind would blow, sand would bury everything, and the desert just kept on marching forward. For decades, China threw everything they could think of at the problem. Back in the 50s, they built sand control stations. In the 60s, they launched these huge, massive tree planting campaigns. But nothing worked. That sea of sand just kept coming. By the 1980s, it was pretty clear that all the usual methods had completely failed.
So after decades of failure, this local businessman, a guy named Wang Wenbio, he steps in. And with his own money on the line, mind you, he proposed a totally different, kind of unconventional plan to finally stop this desert.
His plan was just elegantly simple. First, you create a grid out of dried shrubs right on the sand. This simple grid acts like a little shield, stopping the wind from blowing the sand away and helping trap any bit of moisture. Then, inside these protected squares, he planted licorice saplings. Okay, so why licorice, of all the plants in the world?
Well, this is where the genius really comes in. 3 reasons. First, its roots are incredibly deep. They can go 300 feet down to find water underground. Second, it's just a tough plant. It can handle the harsh desert climate. And third, it's actually valuable. The wood could be sold to make paper and furniture. So this wasn't just about stopping sand, it was about creating value from the land.
And it was working. Trees were actually growing. The people who had laughed at Wang were starting to pay attention. But then a major, unforeseen problem popped up that threatened to derail the whole project.
So here was the catch. For that licorice wood to get thick and valuable, all the new shoots growing on the trunk had to be pruned, constantly. But trying to do that by hand across a massive desert, well, it was unbelievably expensive and just way too slow. The whole economic model was starting to fall apart.
And this is where our story takes a really fascinating turn. The solution wasn't more money, it wasn't some new technology, it was something way, way simpler. It was a totally unexpected hero that would end up solving the whole problem and creating a miracle. That's right, rabbits. Wang's team just released thousands and thousands of rabbits into the licorice fields. It was a perfect system. The rabbits, well, they loved to eat the new licorice shoots, which meant they were basically pruning the plants for free. This let the main trunks grow thick and valuable. In the meantime, the rabbits had a constant food supply, and their waste acted as a natural fertilizer, turning that barren sand into rich soil. It was this perfect, self-sustaining cycle. This one simple addition, the rabbits, it didn't just solve a problem. It unleashed a green revolution on a scale that is honestly hard to even wrap your head around. I mean, we're talking about a project covering over 18,000 square kilometers. They brought in bulldozers to level dunes, planted even more trees, and built entire communities, with the government helping new residents get their own rabbits to keep the cycle going. And the results today? They're just staggering. 1/3 of this once lifeless desert is now covered in green vegetation. An area that was nothing but sand is now a thriving, living ecosystem. And this wasn't just an ecological success, it was a huge economic one. Each household basically became a small farm. Today, the average farmer in the new Kubuqi earns around $9,000 to $10,000 a year, a life-changing amount of money, from farming and from new industries like solar power that have moved into the area. Researchers from all over the world now study this project, and they've even given it a name, an eco-economic revolution. It's this powerful model that shows you don't have to choose between helping the environment and helping the economy. You can actually do both at the very same time. So really, the key takeaway here is pretty amazing. A problem that completely stumped experts for decades was finally solved by a simple, elegant idea that worked with nature, not against it. It really makes you wonder, what other massive, impossible problems out there could be solved not with more complexity, but just with a simple change in perspective?